This is the new BYD Dolphin, and it's a car with a whole lot of pressure resting on its shoulders. Do dolphins have shoulders? You see, this is the smallest and cheapest electric car from China's biggest and most powerful car brand, and it's been sent here to Europe tasked with becoming Europe's new favourite small, cheap electric car. But it will be met with stiff competition from the likes of the MG4. So the question is, can the BYD Dolphin swim to the top of the pile, or will it be an orca-wood failure? Andy, come on.
We know you love the Fully Charged Show, so why not come along to our global tour of live shows in 2023 and 2024. Next shows are in the UK, specifically Farnborough and Harrogate, so get your tickets before they sell out.
So then, BYD Dolphin at long last. This is a bit weird today because what I'm about to do is give you a speedy first look at a car that we actually quite comprehensively reviewed on the channel back in late 2021. Of course, that was Elliot driving it in China, where it's from. But to us here in Europe, this is new and very, very exciting. As I said, this car is here to try to steal the MG4's mantle of the best entry-level small electric car.
You know, you can't beat that, a little bit of forward and backwards with a little button.
Pricing not confirmed yet, but to give you some idea, an MG4 starts at just under 27 grand. One assumes it's vaguely in line with that. And it's worth noting that this is the beginning of a real tidal wave of BYD cars arriving into Europe. We've already got the Atto 3, slightly bigger brother to this car, sort of ID3 rival, and really quite well reviewed so far. This is the next one, and following it shortly behind, we've got the Seal, which looks fantastic, proper Model 3 competitor. We've got the Han, which is a big luxury saloon type thing, and we've got the Tang, which is a big, powerful 4x4. And maybe, just maybe, in the not too distant future, we might get something called the Seagull, which has just been unveiled. It's the smallest and cheapest car that BYD do. Super mini, sits underneath this one, and in China costs about £6,000. Fingers crossed we see that one coming along for the time being. But to start with, let's have a talk about this, because it looks to me to be really quite a package. Shall we have a little strolly around it, see what we can see? I'm going to begin by telling you a mind-blowing fact. Did you know that this car is designed by a chap called Wolfgang Egger, who has some truly legendary cars to his name, including, wait for it, the Alfa Romeo 8C, arguably the most beautiful supercar ever made in the history of ever. That being said, he did play it a little bit safer when it came to this particular design. What I've noticed from what I've seen of BYD so far, which is this and the Atto 3, is that they do tend to keep things quite sensible on the outside and then let their hair down a little bit once you get inside. And that is true of the Dolphin. So, nice, tidy rear end, slightly DS-y rear lights, perhaps. This camo is not an option that you can spec. It's just because this car just arrived in the UK about 9 seconds ago. Fun fact, at the time of recording this, we're a few days out from Fully Charged Live in Farnborough, and this car is going to be on display. It's the only one in the country. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Coming around the side, cheerful, quite high riding for a little hatchback, but certainly not pretending to be a SUV or a crossover, which I really appreciate. Big fan of the two-tone colour schemes. There are lots of different funky colour schemes that you can have your Dolphin in, and I kind of like the matching inserts to the wheel as well. That's quite fun and quirky. Front-wheel drive, this car. Roughly 200 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the vicinity of 7 seconds, which is kind of like hot hatchback performance. I am expecting that there might be a slightly more modestly powered, slightly cheaper version down the line. Fingers crossed, because that seems like quite a lot for this sort of car. As you can see, not a whole lot in the way of overhang. That is because this car sits on bespoke EV architecture. It has a very clever battery mounted underneath the floor, and the upshot of all that, amongst other things, is a whole load of interior space. But allow me very quickly just to get a bit nerdy and technical about that battery, just for a moment, because BYD are battery manufacturers first and a car brand second. These guys have been building batteries for everything from mobile phones to trains for a very long time, and they are very good at it. What we have under the floor here is the Blade battery. It is a lithium iron phosphate battery. It's got no cobalt in. It's significantly more power dense than a conventional lithium ion battery. As a result of that, this car with a 60 kilowatt hour battery pack is good for a WLTP combined range, that's highway and city driving, of 265 miles. That is big, big range. But there's more to it as well. Because of the way that the cells are arranged inside this battery pack, it's much more compact, meaning it takes up less space, more room for your feet. It's also ultra safe. They've done everything from chuck this battery into a furnace, to freezing it in Arctic conditions, to penetrating it with a big nail, which is sort of considered the last and hardest test in terms of battery safety. Most batteries get a bit explodey when you do that, but this one hardly cares at all. It barely even heats up. It certainly doesn't catch fire. So ultra safe, cutting edge battery technology in this car, and that is just something that you're going to get from BYD because they've got so much practice. And then around the front, not too much to comment on design-wise. It's nothing groundbreaking. I think it's quite a cheerful looking thing. I think the best thing I can say for the exterior design of this car is it doesn't feel especially derivative of anything else. I can get a little bit of early Ford KA maybe if I squint, but where many other Chinese car brands still kind of feel like they're borrowing a lot of design influence from Western car brands, BYD, I kind of think have gone in their own direction. Wait till you see the inside. Ooh, now then, the interior of the BYD Dolphin. This, I was not expecting. Now, I mentioned that with the Atto 3, BYD kept it quite sensible on the outside and then had a little bit of fun with the interior. We've got a little bit of that going on in here too. There's a kind of ocean design language that runs through a lot of BYD models, hence the Dolphin name. And we can see it in these rather interesting vents up here. We can see it in these slightly curvaceous dorsal fin-esque door handles. But forget all of that. Would you have a look at this? Oh, we've got the rotating central screen, the same that you get in the BYD Atto 3. Look at this. I can operate it from the steering wheel or by pressing the touchscreen. That is really, really, really cool. And I know what you're thinking. Surely that's a bit flimsy and it just feels like it's going to come off in your hand. But that brings me to my next point about this interior. The quality of the fit and finish is very, very impressive. It just feels solid in here. Nice materials, premium, soft touch stuff. Everywhere important. Okay, if I really go hunting for nasty plastics, I can find some there and some there, but this is an entry-level electric car with a really big battery. You are fully prepared to accept a little bit of dodgy plastic here and there. A few other things I like. It's interesting looking in here, but completely intuitive. We've got the big, easy to hit buttons on the steering wheel. I know exactly what they all do at a glance. This bank of switches in the middle, this is really, really lovely. It looks fantastic. This is my volume rocker. I push it to turn the radio on and off. This on the other side is my gear selector. And then we've got these lovely kind of rolly switches. You don't press them, you slide them. They're really nice and tactile and it just looks really interesting. This is not a phone charger, it's a decoy. It's just a phone tray. But this is a phone charger. Down here, that's quite nice. And then if we go into this extremely responsive touchscreen, I can show you the many, many camera angles, just about every angle imaginable. Really, really crisp. Again, just super responsive software. Lovely comfy seats, good driving position. Just on the whole, so much more premium feeling and looking than you would ever expect one of the cheapest electric cars that you can buy to be. I think in terms of general sense of quality, this cabin blows the MG out of the ocean. Backseat test. Now, as you can see, this driver's seat is very much all the way back in my silly driving position. If I get in, thanks to that flat floor, legs no problem, head problem, little problem. But look, if I just do the little wriggle, get the headrest where I want it, and then recline, absolutely fine. You just have to nap. That's the rule of these back seats. If you want to be upright and alert, you're going to struggle if you're my height. That panoramic sunroof is certainly eating into the headroom. There's a kind of big bump here right where my head wants to be. But can we just remind ourselves that this is a very small car? My old Golf that I used to have, which was probably bigger than this on the outside, it was a 3-seater when I was driving. We have to remind ourselves, the bespoke EV architecture, the flat floor, it means that you now have actually usable back seats for adults in this segment of car, where they were just methods of medieval torture for small children back in the ICE days. And again, the sense of quality in here is apparent. The material on these seats feels fantastic. When you shut the door, there's a lovely thunk and then it feels very quiet in here. I think it's probably got really good sound deadening when you're out on the road. We'll find out when we get to drive it. And incidentally, in addition to these reasonably spacious rear seats, we've also got a 346 litre boot behind me, which is useful, not enormous. It does have a false floor. You can fold these seats down and go full van mode. But I mean, what a quality interior this is. Again, it's the sense of quality that really takes me aback. You just don't expect things to feel so nice in an entry-level EV. The proof very much will be in the pudding. We need to know how much this thing costs before passing final judgment. If this truly is an MG4 rival for price, the MG4 should be a little bit worried. Right, I must now shut up and leave so that this car can be driven down to Farnborough, where it is being unveiled for the first time in Europe at our little show. That's kind of cool, isn't it? And just to be clear, I hope you don't think I'm being nice to this car because it's being unveiled at Fully Charged Live. No. If it was rubbish, I'd tell you. And anyone who attends the show this year will see for themselves that I'm not exaggerating as far as just the sense of quality in this vehicle. Is this the new champion of entry-level electric cars? Well, look, too soon to tell. We need to drive it. We need to find out how much it really costs. But the signs are very positive. That interior has no right to be that nice and that well equipped for the sort of price point that we are imagining for this vehicle. But actually, we can save the which of these two Chinese electric cars is better debate for another day. Can we just acknowledge quickly the fact that there are only two entry-level, high-quality electric cars and that they are both Chinese? VW ID.2, still a couple of years away. Tesla Model A, who on earth knows? If I was the CEO of a European legacy car brand right now, I'd be having a look at this and sweating profusely.